Until some new information comes out, I'm going to cover just some basic information that will support what the channel has been saying about this event with the USS Fitzgerald. Now, without saying as much, in this article they pretty much reveal what the channel's been saying. They're just doing it in a way that points you to the proper information to give you the right mindset. This article says, how do Navy ships operate? I'm just going to read through some of this, not to be too much of a narrator, but there's going to be a couple other tabs we cover. And one's going to actually include audio from the bridge of a USS destroyer that collided with an oil tanker in the Straits of Hormuz. And you can see, and you will not see, but you'll be able to hear exactly how it goes down and how quickly people get on the horn reporting the collision. Anyway, but let's go here. Whether it's an aircraft carrier or any other warship, a United States Navy vessel never sleeps on the open sea thanks to a complex orchestra of people and systems tracking its course. A deadly collision Saturday between the USS Fitzgerald and a container ship off Japan's coast raises questions about how military vessels operate. Here are the basics. And this was asked of me as well in another video. Service members rely on a constant flow of information from satellite technology, radar, the global positioning system, and visual cues to track their course and monitor other vessels. Ships receive normal weather updates and imagery from satellites, but no real-time imagery of ocean traffic is available for obvious reasons. How much attention they pay to each signal depends on the situation. Vessels approaching shore or heavy traffic use more feedback to adjust position minute to minute, he said. But we know that's not the case here. Nowhere near shore, 50 miles out to sea. As vessels get farther out into lighter traffic, the crew uses less feedback to modulate its position. It's a multifaceted, multi-layered application of a series of sensors in real time that are providing feedback not only about where your ship is, but where other ships are. Okay, fact, and that's aboard all Navy vessels, not just destroyers. On a destroyer, the information flows into the electronic chart display and information system, which interfaces with the ship's GPS receivers and navigation sensors, such as speed and wind indicators, to give watchstanders a computerized, real-time view of position and movement. A real-time view. That means on the destroyer, there was a room manned by people that knew exactly, minute to minute, where that container ship was. Unlike merchant vessels, which may not necessarily be manned at the same level at all times, the bridge is staffed 24 hours. In a normal rotation, a typical bridge watch team consists of 6 to 10 members responsible for safe navigation and operation under the officer of the deck, who reports to the commanding officer. The helmsman is a sailor who controls the direction of the ship based on orders from the conning officer. The quartermaster is the direct representative of the ship's navigator who monitors the surface search radar system and other charts to provide a continuous navigational watch on the bridge. The boatswain's mate of the watch is a petty officer who assists the OOD and ensures all bridge watch stations. Below the bridge is the Combat Information Center, a watch team of 6 to 10 officers and enlisted specialists responsible for the weapon systems. The CIC includes a radar operator who monitors ships within range, and a navigation chart plotter who also monitors the electronic chart display and navigation systems. Once again, lots of people, eyeballs on, 24 hours a day. No way this thing snuck up on this thing's starboard, aft, and smacked into it. Sorry. Outside the ship, lookouts are typically stationed at the back and near the front or on or close to the bridge, part of the bridge watch team. Their job is to constantly scan the horizon with binoculars as a backup to radar in case it misses a small fishing boat or picks up big waves in heavy sea. Neither was the case here. Many times the radar picture may be convincing you of one thing and what you see doesn't match up. You need an extra layer of context. You can only get that from what you see, all of which were present on the Fitzgerald. So, here's another level. Higher headquarters maintain a regional picture of activity, tracking a ship's progress and location. So they didn't know that it got hit until an hour later? Really? But once a vessel receives orders, it tends to be self-directed under the aegis of the commanding officer. He has singular authority. Of course, the captain makes the final decision. But in this case, there was so much of nothing around this ship that the captain was asleep. And it says that here in this article. The captain would be on bridge of coming into port or leaving port or in a highly trafficked area because it's more dangerous. The fact that he was down in his cabin tells you this wasn't that kind of environment. Once again, pointing us to the fact that this is a bunch of caca. This is a bunch of bullshit. Now, this talks about the training and why don't destroyers hit cargo ships or vice versa more often? Because of all the precautions noted above. They have a dozen guys monitoring electronic systems. They have people physically out on the edges of the ship looking around. And they have a command system that's looking at them from a distance, not on the ship. There is no way on God's green earth, if this ship was operating as it was supposed to be operating, with no problems whatsoever, it would never have ever gotten hit. And that's what the channel's saying. Something happened to the ship before it got hit. There's no way the first report of this would have come an hour later from a Filipino cargo crew. We would have known about this from the Navy a long time before that cargo ship even thought about turning around. The fact that it continued on course for a half an hour before deciding to turn around is just insane. Think about that. If you're in a boat in a much smaller situation. You don't continue for a half an hour. And as we can see in the tracks from yesterday, it doesn't take the thing a half an hour to turn around. It doesn't take it that enormous amount of distance to turn around. Especially after it's allegedly smacked head on into a destroyer. It's not still at highway speed, so to speak, in that case. Could have easily come to a stop right then and there, but it didn't. What could have prevented, blah, blah, blah. Investigation. But point being, reading through this tells you that something is up. Now, here's another collision that happened with the USS Hartford and the USS New Orleans. This was a submarine, and that should tell you something, and another U.S. warship that knocked into each other, but they were in the Straits of Hormuz. And the investigation here showed that the crew aboard the Hartford was not being commanded properly. But once again, incredibly congested area. We had one ship that was mostly below the waterline. It's just not plausible. Here is another article, and this just shows more of the damage. And when Navy ships collide, there's virtually always human error involved. You know, most of these times when there are collisions, once again, they are in very, very tight quarters. And this just explains, what happened in this one. But there's no indication that this was tight quarters at all. But anyway, there was something in here I wanted to cover. Previous collisions also may come up in the service scrutinizes how to avoid another incident. The Porter and another destroyer collided in 2012 in the Straits of Hormuz on the coast of Iran with the MV Ottawazan, an oil tanker. Okay, and that is here. Yeah, this is the one. Now, this is the one I have the audio for. Now, the damage here took 2 months to repair. The ship never was in dry dock and rejoined the carrier strike group that it was assigned to within 8 weeks. Now, this collision only occurred at 5 knots, but it did with an oil tanker. But here we actually have the audio. Now, this is a 4-minute audio, and there's a whole lot of garble in it. But I want you to listen to, at the end, once the collision happens, the first thing one of these sailors does is get on the horn and communicate they've been hit. Okay? So I'm just going to play this real quick.
Let's get back to our course. What are you doing? I was just getting the stern away, sir. Let's go back to our main base course.
Steady on course 230.
Sir, I was taking the stern away in case the valve's being closed, or in case their valve.
Already passed the guy.
Sir.
Continue left, steady on course 230.
Okay, let's get back on our base course.
Base course means nothing. Let's just get the ship through the stuff.
Rudder mission. Rudder mission time. Rudder mission to the coordinates. Very well, sir. Request to close. Alright, sir, I have another merchant here on the starboard bow. Very well. I have a port running light. Request to come to starboard to 250 and passing down the starboard side, sir.
Which guy?
This guy right here.
Why don't we just go straight this way?
I have hi, sir. Sir, I would like to slow down. All right, slow to 5.
1/3, 5 knots.
Pass the turn. Slow to 5. Slowing to 5 knots. Please pass it to Gunson Hall.
Yes, pass it over fleet path.
Very well.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the decision to come to flank, let's not do
Yes,
that
sir.
again,
Aye,
all
sir.
right?
Yes,
That's
sir.
not
Aye,
how you
sir.
slow the problem down.
Hi, sir. Sir, I had a port aspect on this guy. He's crossing us. We need to act quickly, sir.
Okay.
Recommend full left full
Left
rudder.
full rudder.
Left full rudder.
Hard left rudder.
Reach the rudder, hard left. Hard left, rudder right. Rudder is left 30 degrees in the port ship.
Line short. Line short. Let's go.
Very well. And sir, I'd like to just continue to physical course.
All right, steady as she goes.
Hi, sir.
Steady as she goes.
She goes 170. Left, right 50 degrees to the course, 170.
Flank guy. Let's go. Get me up there, flank.
Collisions come up here soon.
Flank, let's go.
Hey, left rudder. Left
There's your collision.
You all right? You all right? Come through.
All right.
Is that all right? You know what? Stop. Come and stop. What's up?
We've been ahead. Port side, general quarter. General quarter.
No port side.
So there you go. There's some good observations to take away there. So there was argument on the bridge. People knew they were so unbelievably close to the ship that they hit while they were trying to maneuver around it. When the collision occurred, all sorts of alarm bells went off. The first command that went out was all stop. The next thing that happened was somebody got on the horn and said, "We've been hit." This would have happened aboard the destroyer, the Fitzgerald. The same thing would have happened aboard the other ship. If they smacked into something as hard as it is alleged, as they would have smacked into this ship based on the evidence, all stop. They would have come to a complete stop. In this case, both ships would have. And, more importantly, the Navy, people on board, the officers, would have reported within a matter of seconds that they had been hit. And, what we just read in the article before, I'm sure somebody at 7th Fleet Command would have noticed this. we would have not gotten our first report from a Filipino crew an hour later after they decided to turn around and come back and bullshit. I'm sorry, but I don't, all the comments on here notwithstanding that are disagreeing with me, I'm sorry, but it doesn't make sense. There's no way. In this particular case, we didn't get the report from the oil tanker crew that they'd been sailed into. We knew about this immediately from the Navy. But the first people who found out about this collision was the Japanese Coast Guard? Sorry. Not buying it. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. It's just not plausible based on what we've seen. So, anyway, this will be probably, unless some new information comes out or somebody points out something that I've completely overlooked, last video I do on this, at least for a minute. So, anyway, like, share, subscribe. Thanks for all the input. Really appreciate it.